All right. Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome.
Yes, welcome.
Welcome, welcome. For anyone joining us today, tell us in the chat. I have a very important question for you. Are your shoes on or shoes off? This is my favorite part about training in the virtual world. I love to know whether people have their shoes on or shoes off. So if you're out there, oh goodness, we got a lot of shoes on. I'm going to be perfectly honest. My shoes are off. It's my favorite thing about facilitating virtually. Laura, I'm with you. Shoes off halfway. Jackie, I don't even know what that means. On, off. Oh, slippers. Elena, good for you. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Welcome, welcome, everybody that's joining us today. We're starting with a really, really important question. Shoes on or shoes off for today's training? It's like my favorite thing about being in the virtual world is like all of the rules are off, right? All the rules are off and you get to do you. And so I love seeing how people feel about shoes. I'm a shoes off kind of person, and we see a lot of different things going on here. I love the slipper option. Jackie's the winner with the halfway. I feel like I see your foot dangling and like a shoe kind of like dangling off of it. That's what I have in my head right now. I love the slipper people. My daughter is a slipper person. She loves her slippers. Yep. Welcome. Was I right, Jackie? I got it. Oh, that's so awesome. Yes. So fun. Yep, I did. I got it. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome.
So it's officially 12:01. So we'll get started. Okay, Susan, I want to welcome everyone. My name is Mary Monteleone, Vice President of Professional Development for LIBOR, and welcome to LIBOR's Wednesday webinar. As you can see, we have a very energetic and ready to go guest speaker with us today. But let me introduce her to you officially and formally. Susan is CEO of IMEX ID, a performance consulting company. She is business advisor for CEOs and entrepreneurs in the professional services industry who are interested in expansion. She is an expert in the use of education to drive measurable business success for your products. She also happens to be a previous realtor with 12 plus years and 26 million in closed sales. Today, she is sharing her strategy for how to create meaningful connections online that will grow your real estate practice. So welcome, Susan.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Marianne LIBOR, for inviting me to come share and speak about something I'm extremely passionate about, which is using all of the online world to help yourself to grow and advance. And couldn't be any more grateful that I'm today with a group of real estate agents, brokers, and anyone else affiliated with LIBOR. As Marianne said, I spent 12 years, which is kind of amazing because I don't know, put it in the chat or wherever you're looking, like, did you expect to be in real estate? Like, did any of you go to school or, you know, in your life say, you know what, I'm going to become a real estate agent? I would tell you that real estate found me. Real estate found me, and real estate ended up being such an amazing gift in my life. In my prior life, actually, I've had a lot of prior lives. I was a school teacher. And I left and I got into corporate education, and I spent a lot of years helping businesses and owners and companies in the hotel industry, in the retail industry. And then back in, biomedical sciences, like, you know, it's so funny, like what you think you're going to do you always do that? Not really. But, you know, I found myself back in 2008, unemployed with a brand new baby, and no idea and no direction. And it was a very scary time for me, because I would have told you that I was going to be an employee for the rest of my life. And like I said, I don't quite know how I ended up in real estate, but to this day, I say real estate found me. And I went on to spend 12 years in real estate right here in Long Island. I was a proud LIBOR member. I really just resigned my position in the past in the past 6 months. Side by side, I had been growing a training company, and that's, you know, gone through many iterations as well. I won't bore you with all those details, but when I think about real estate, I think about the opportunity it gave me to really become the keeper of my success. And that's what I want people thinking about when they think about real estate. There's very few jobs, right, in the world where you can work with someone and for someone, but yet have complete autonomy and control over yourself. And you are in charge of your destiny. And I think, you know, a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do that. And when I was thinking about how could I bring to the table what I do really well, which is helping people to connect and create connections that actually grow their businesses, like what would be meaningful for, you know, the real estate audience? And I kind of always go to that statistic that, you know, the majority of real estate agents, I want to say it's like 87%, even maybe a little bit higher, are no longer agents in 5 years. So just curious, is anyone a 5-year agent or greater on this call? If so, give yourself a round of applause in the chat. Give us a heck yeah, a thumbs up. If you've made it 5 years, you've made it far more with 26, right? You have made it longer than clearly the majority of agents. So I want to give you the opportunity really quick to share your brilliance. If you would like to, in the moment right now, I'm going to teach about creating connections online, but you don't last this long in the business without learning a lot of things, making a lot of adjustments, and taking a lot of big risks. So if anybody has anything right now that they want to share, we're going to make this our first strategy, because I believe success really comes from not just doing what you do, but spending time meeting, connecting, and learning from others, because there's always a golden nugget for you. And so anyone right now that has that, please do us a favor, jump into this conversation, be the expert that you are, claim your power, and tell us one thing that helped you to stay in business this long. And we're going to be able to pull together a list of these things. I look at this, we have 40 plus years, 33 years, 10 years, patience. I love it. We're going to start seeing all kinds of ideas in the feed. Patience is such a good one, Jackie, right? Real estate is not overnight success. Can I get an amen, right? Real estate is not overnight success. Real estate is about persistence. And a lot of times I didn't really hit my stride in real estate probably till about year 6 or 7. So I was able to, in the beginning, my kids were little, I didn't know what I was doing. I was scared to death to even tell somebody I was a realtor. I had all these things to work through. And so my sales reflected that. But as my confidence grew, as my skills grew, as my time advanced, right, I was able to grow that practice. So yes, lots of good things coming through the chat. So I want you to think about this, because first of all, one of the things that holds people back in real estate, I think more than in life, really you can apply this to life, is that we stop thinking about what are our own measures of success, and we try and live by somebody else's measures of success. And when you're out of alignment like that, you know, it can make it even harder to do that. So sometimes I would look, and I can only share my own personal experience, but when I was a newer agent coming up, and I would look at the top performers and the people that, you know, took out the ads in the real estate newspaper, you know, in the newspaper section, and they had like 15 properties or 30 properties. And I was sitting over there with like 1 or 2 listings, right? Sometimes no listings, sometimes just a buyer, you know, just buyers. Me, I started in rentals. But I have to tell you, I always felt like I felt like I stayed an undercover agent longer than I should have, because I felt shame or embarrassment around the fact that I wasn't as successful as all these other agents that I was seeing at. So one of the first things I want to do for you today is share a little bit about success measures. And because this is where performance begins from, right? There's a method to my madness. The reason I've gotten so good at what I do, since this is a class about connection, please, if we're not connected in some way, find me on one of my social platforms and say hello. I would love to meet each and every one of you. And I'm kind of all over, so you can find me really easily. But when I think about success metrics, often we're only thinking about, am I the top performing person in my office? Do I have the most listings? Did I make the leaderboard, right? And when we don't, we feel like it starts to make us feel like we're not quite good enough. And this is a lot of reason people aren't connecting online. I'm not big enough agent. I haven't done enough business. I haven't been around long enough. We have all these things that we start to make up in our head around why we can't even talk about who we are or what we do, because it's not quite good enough. So I want you to sit right now for a second, and I want you to just think about my 4 favorite success metrics. Do you have the time in your day to do the things that you want? Do you have the freedom in your life to engage in the activities that are important to you? Do you have the funds, right, to achieve the goals you want to achieve? Or have you reached the level of status that is meaningful and valuable to you? And for every person, I feel like there ends up being one that really rises to the top. So since we're, a little short on time, I want you to think about, in these 4 success metrics, which one is most important to you? Doesn't matter which one, right? But which one is most important to you? And I want you to start judging yourself against that, right? So does my real estate practice give me the time, the personal freedom, the funds, the status that I want to achieve in my own life? And if it's not, then I want you to consider all the strategies other people already placed in here. And we're going to move forward today with 2 really good online strategies that are going to help you to achieve those goals. So take a second. I'm just going to let there be quiet for a second. I'd love for you to either grab a paper, a piece of pencil, or a pencil. If you're driving, or you're out walking, however you're consuming this content right now, just let yourself be still for a minute and ask myself, what would be the best measure of personal success for me? I don't care about what everybody else is, but what's the best one for me? And that's the one I want you to keep as your North Star. Because I'm going to ask you to be a willing participant to become more visible online. And I know for a fact that the reason most people shy away from being more visible online is that they often believe they haven't reached a certain level of success that allows them to be considered an expert. And so this kind of makes it a level playing field. Whether you're that agent that's the top performer and you're bringing 6 figures plus, great. If that's what you want and you've achieved that goal, perfect. But I got to tell you, when I was a new agent and I had a baby and I didn't know what I was doing, right? My goal was to make enough money so that I didn't have to go back to a full-time job. That was my goal. And I hit it every single time because it was meaningful and it was important to me. And I was willing to work towards that goal. So hopefully you have your success metric in your own mind. And I encourage you to rewatch this again and to spend some time exploring these sort of personal success metrics and to let go a little bit of what this vision that somebody else has created for us and allow ourselves to really step into our own personal vision around success. And do me a favor, if you want to ask any questions about this or put this in the chat, go ahead. But I'd love to hear if anyone wants to share what their personal success metric is. I'm always curious to see what's more important to people: time, freedom, funds, or status. It doesn't matter, right? But feel free to add it in there. So if you want to be really and some people just say, well, you're just lucky, right? You're just lucky. It's not luck. It's knowing what your personal success goal is and putting yourself in a position to receive it, which means you have to take some action. So you can call me lucky all day long if you like, but I win every time because I set myself up to be successful. So I'm going to play this for you for a second. I don't know if you can hear my sound or not, but when it comes to growing your real estate practice, right, you have a couple of options. You can be like this guy, right? Wandering around, aimlessly knocking on doors, trying to figure out if somebody's buying or selling, which, by the way, we won't talk about all the rules and regulations around door knocking, but there's no more quicker and exponential way than to literally ask somebody, are you thinking about buying or selling your home? Are you thinking about buying or selling your home? If they say no, they're not for you, continue on. Are you thinking about buying or selling your home? Nope, they're not for you, move on. And there are extremely successful people that are like machines when it comes to this, right? And they can do it all day long. They can cold call, right? And they have a tremendous amount of success. I don't believe most people are very comfortable doing that. So while this works, to me, it's very anxiety provoking. I would totally disintegrate under the mental energy of that. And, I can only tolerate and withstand so many no's in a day, right? I don't have, I don't have the backbone for that. So that one's not as successful for me. Here's the other thing that tends to happen when you take strategies like that is that we feel salesy. Put it in the chat if you've ever not told anyone that you were a real estate agent because you were so afraid it would sound salesy, right? Yeah, this is what we think of when we think of sales sometimes. And nobody wants to be painted with this brush. So it ends up being, right, these very things that hold us back from simply telling people who we are and what we do. And so that's why I love to say, that's why these a personal connection strategy is so important, because if all you do, and think about, we're going to talk about how this looks online. If all you do is tell everyone, show everyone your listings, tell everyone you're an agent, right? And just post houses about pictures, right? That's not what people want. That's actually not what they want. As a matter of fact, of all the people on your email list, of all the people in your database, at any given time, roughly 2% of them are in a position to buy or sell. And the reality of the fact is that in a lifetime, somebody only moves about 7 times. So if your entire strategy is creating a database of people that I can sell to in some way, right? Whether it's rentals, if that's my entire strategy, a client would become my client once every about 7 to 10 years. So unless you have a lot of people in that database, you're limiting your ability to truly become successful. And I love to say this too. If anybody feels like, well, I post online all the time, but it feels like crickets, what I'm going to teach you is going to help with that too. So I want to just stop. When I'm up on full screen like this, I can't really see the chat. I want to just see if there's anything in here. Yep. Yeah. You wanted to be able to leave your full-time job, right? Perfect. Anything in the Q&A, anything anybody wants me to look at before we continue on? Okay, feel free to add anything in the Q&A and we'll be going through that. So, all right, I'm with you, Susan. I get it. Stop beating the dead horse. Yes, I want to be selling, but I also want to be connecting. And I want to show you how you can do that, how you can use online connections to open the door that are meaningful conversations. And as a matter of fact, I'll do it one of the next times I drop this, but I have a great little how-to guide for you that we're going to attach here. And if you're someplace and you can't access it, it will be a part of the recording and it'll be something that you can have going forward. So one of the first strategies I want to teach you is this. I want you to think about your social media platform from a 75-25 rule. And here's my definition for that. I want you to spend 75% of your time engaging with your people and 25% of your time sharing what they care about. Now, this is probably very different from, most conversations you've had with other people, especially marketing companies that are like, post every day, post all the time. Listen, everybody has their reason and their goal that they're trying to achieve. So I can't speak to whether or not that's right, because I don't know what goal that they were trying to help you to achieve. Here, it's about making meaningful connections. And there's no place online, there's no place that you have more opportunity to connect with people in your community, in your state, literally around the world, who can become your champion. But they don't really care much at all about the houses that you're selling. So the majority of the posts I did as an agent, the majority of the posts I see coming through as agents are really about advertising an open house, a new listing. I love when I see posts around, what do you think of this kitchen? Do you like white or gray? At least you're starting to like bring me into the conversation a little bit. But one of the things that we teach our clients how to do is, how do you actually capture the things that your people are most interested in? And by the way, it's not just houses, right? Let's see if we can come up with some ideas that we can share with each other right now. What are things the people that you love to work with are often talking about beyond real estate? Let's see if we can generate a little bit of conversation in the chat around some things that you can do. In New York State, we're in a state of emergency. What ways can we reach our market besides social media? I will show you, we're going to talk about how to use this strategy on, on email as well. So hopefully that will help. Okay, awesome. Student loan debt, right? Conversations about it. The only thing that I want to caution people on is, you want to spark curiosity, not ranting, right? So, just be cautious when you're talking about charged things that, you could inadvertently start something like that where you don't want to, right? But, having some conversation around that could be really interesting. Events in your area, Vanessa, awesome. There's an agent that I know who does a wonderful blog about every restaurant he goes to. So every restaurant he goes to, he takes a picture of himself, whoever he's with, and he goes to the restaurant and he shares something he loves about that restaurant. He tags the restaurant in it. The restaurant is grateful, and he is now connecting to other people that might like this restaurant as well. He's growing his profile. I love it. Events are perfect for that. Pets. Yes. Listen, people want to work with people that are like them. If you love pets, talk about your pets. If you have kids and you feel comfortable, talk about your kids. If you love a particular sports team, talk about that sports team. I'll tell you the other day, yes, different areas that they live in. So interest rates, Melissa, I want to get into this a little bit because this is a great place to go to, right? So there's general conversation that just is engaging, right? Remember, social media is social. People are actually on there to be entertained, especially on Instagram and Facebook, right? So they're very interested in being entertained. They're numbing out, they're spacing in between meetings. They don't really have time for involved information. They want to make it quick, they want to make it light, they want to make it easy, right? Interest rates fall into a little bit of a different topic, but also a really good one. Education sells. That's one of the things that we teach people how to do all the time, is how do you create a series of more educational type videos that teach on topics that your people are interested in. So right now, like explaining interest rates, why things are going up, why things are going down, how they influence the market, how you can get the most value out of that. What does this mean for you? Like those are all like teaching type things. And those are really, really valuable too. People love to talk about their families. Yes. Right. Sometimes just doing like a crazy post, like remember, connecting on social media is not just about you pushing your own stuff, but it's about bringing people into you. So a lot of times, Carol, something really fun that you could do with that would be, hey, this weekend we were pumpkin picking. Tell me, what did you do with your family this weekend? Now, all of a sudden you're inviting someone into the conversation, right? I love it. People like, so, someone has childcare down here, which is a really great, like little sidebar to this. What are the questions that your people want to know? And how can you, You might end up doing posts. Hey, for anyone new to the local area, I created a great list of a couple of nice local daycare centers. Is there anyone that would like a copy of that? Right? Like that's a great example of sharing things that are really meaningful and value to your people. I love it. Recipes, social gatherings. I mean, you get this, right? Anything but real estate sometimes. And you might say, but Susan, hacks, I love hacks. I do hacks all the time. But you might be saying, but Susan, but so what then? But they don't know I'm a real estate agent then. But how do I work with them? Like, how does this work? It's a really great question that you're asking. That's where you want to make sure that you optimize your social profile. I don't have the ability to show you this, but this is some of the things that we do teach people how to do, and there's lots of other people that do this as well. But your social media profiles are like a billboard, because there's this concept called download in a day, right? And you probably know you've done this. You probably know, and you've done this, I'm sure, is that you meet somebody new, or you see somebody comments on something online and you find it interesting, you find them interesting, and you're like, huh, who's that person? What's the first thing you do? You go Google them. What can you find out about people? If you go to my Facebook profile, even my personal one, my banner is me and what I do and how I help people. My value proposition at the top is what I do and how I help people. If you go to my LinkedIn profile, right next to my name, on the other side of my name, is not my company name, but it has to do with the words training. Like, how do you want to be known? I taught this to somebody and he thought it was the best thing he had never heard of. He's 22,000. This is a write this down. If you're on LinkedIn, I have a connection who has 22,000 connections on LinkedIn. That's a huge network he's built. It takes a lot of time to do that. And I showed him how very simply and easily to go in where his name is, put a comma right after it, and write broker. This person happens to be a broker, realtor. So every time you're on LinkedIn and you comment on someone else's post, all of a sudden it's your name, realtor, your name, realtor. And I know these things don't sound like they're that impactful, but it is the culmination of all these little tweaks that over time expand your network. I'm going to show you what you can do with them. The first thing you need to do is I'm going to show you a funnel that's going to help with this, because the first thing we need to do is just get as big as we can get. How big can you get? How many people can you meet? How many people know who you are, right? And social media is an awesome place to do that. The tricks and the hacks here, Melissa, I'm going to use the hacks, is that they don't care about your house. They don't care about your listing. I say it with love, but they do not care about your listings. I'm not saying don't list those. I think it's important, but I want you to think about the 75-25. If your profile, right, you don't want to be that salesy, cheesy person. If your profile and your feed only talks about you and what you're selling, then people are going to scroll right past it. They're going to scroll right past it. They're not going to hit that like button. They're not going to engage, and they're not going to seek you out, right? They're not going to read your profile. So these are all little tweaks and things you can do with the valuable time you're already spending on social media. 75% of your time engaging, 25% sharing information they care about. Any questions on this strategy? Evan, is there anything we need to address? I'm gonna leave that question up to, so you're gonna get a follow-up. I'm happy to share this presentation. If you want a part of that too, live, or you can let me know if that's helpful. I'd be happy to do that as well. Okay,
Yeah, we're gonna post this online. It'll be on lirealtor.com. I'll post the link in the chat directly to where it will be. And you can expect that
awesome.
at some point, later today or tomorrow.
So if you feel like right now your social media is like crickets, try the 75-25. Remember, and I actually think, before I get, I'm going to come back to this because I want to show you what a relationship funnel looks like. It's very different from a sales funnel, right? A relationship funnel is about how many new connections can I make? right? How many new connections can I make? And new connections, right? Connections are not about how do I sell to this person? Connections are about, who is this person? What's going on with them? It's about being really curious and just intentionally wanting to know more about other people. Because the more you know about what other people need, right, the more you can be the solution giver. Write that down. Be the solution giver. Whether that solution, and we were having a great conversation about this in a networking group that I'm in early today. When I talk about this in detail in a couple of other ways, but I want you to think about it. If you were to like, get hit in the head and you're bleeding from the head, right? And I have to go to the emergency room, and you went to the emergency room and they looked at it and they said, yep, you're bleeding. We stopped bleeding by placing a cold compress on there. Here's some different ways we've done this in the past, right? And we give them all the information. They're like, I don't care. I don't care about any of that. What I want you to do is stop the bleeding. When you offer and give people what they need, it's like stopping the bleeding, and their gratitude to you soars. And sometimes people get a little stuck here because it's not about you knowing all the answers. It's not about you do everything. Like I hear people all the time, but Susan, I give so much. It never comes back to me. I give so much. It never comes back to me. I don't want you to give that much that it feels like a burden, right? Sometimes people just say, this happens in my local community all the time. I live in Rockville Center, RVC moms. I go into RVC moms to be super helpful, period. I don't sell myself. I go into RVC moms to be super helpful, because when I make connections for people, if I say something, they go look me up. I can see it. and when my profile is optimized, then they know it. So here's like a perfect example. Somebody's always looking for someone to babysit their kids. I need a nanny. This happened just in real time the other day. I had a previous client, real estate client, by the way, who there was probably, I sold them their house. I don't know. They didn't have kids when I sold them their house, and their kids are probably 6 or 7. And I'm not following up like I used to on real estate because I'm not as active anymore. But what happened was I was on her social media, like scrolling through social media, and I saw my nanny just quit. And then I happened to be on RVC Moms, and I see this post about, we don't need our nanny anymore, right? And so all I did was I hit the my client's name in the comments and just hit enter. I didn't have to do anything else. So easy, but I literally made like a very valuable connection for her. Guess what she did? Can you guess? This client that I tagged on here, guess what she did? She called me. And all of a sudden we had a conversation, right? This is how you open up the door to meaningful conversations with people that help you. And guess what I do at the end of every conversation I have with somebody, right? I didn't sell her anything, but I checked in. Hey, how's your house? What's going on? I always end in some way, shape, or form with, hey, do you know anybody who's looking to XYZ? You get to fill in that blank. Buy an investment property, downsell their house. Are your parents going into assisted living? Like whatever it is, your specialty, whatever you want to focus on, whatever you want to people ask. But I always do a call to action. I always make an action. Hey, can you do me a favor? I'm looking to expand my business when it comes to helping senior citizens to make sure they're set up with their housing needs for the future. I'm like making this up, right? That's too long. You'd want to come up with something better. And then she literally says, yes or no. Yes or no. Okay. Nobody right now. Awesome. Well, you know what? This is what I'm working on these days. So if you think of that, do you mind just drop my name, make an introduction for me? I'd really appreciate it. Now, there's 2 things about this that make it really, really powerful. I gave her a reason to think of me, and not just if you know anybody buying or selling. That's very generic. I like it. Listen, I'd rather have you start there and get the muscle memory of at least saying that on a regular basis. But the reason I love to throw in like a little specialty there is that it sticks with people. Everybody says, do you know if anybody's buying or selling? Let me know. But I sort of said, hey, do you know, like, and again, like sometimes I gauge it. So this person kind of fits that profile. You know, she's got aging parents. She's got, you know, she's in that profile. So it would make sense to say that to her. If I was talking to somebody who I knew had kids out of college, I might do something completely different. I might say, hey, do me a favor. I'm really trying to specialize in helping first-time home buyers, you know, who are just getting out of college and really need to get that first place. Do you know anybody that's thinking about that, or that would, you know, is talking about that? Again, I nuanced it to the person and I gave them something specific to help memorize, help remember me. So remember that. And then honestly, just like everybody else, this ongoing nurturing relationship. Do you text people? Do you check in? Do you say hello? You know, hey, I read this book. I thought of you. You know, sometimes what I've been doing lately, and again, like I'm following my own advice. I'm 75% of the time, I'm enjoying myself on Instagram. I follow fun people. I get funny memes. Things make me laugh. And then what I'll do is actually like text it to somebody in my network. So I have a client who is very interested in growing old gracefully, I think is the best way to put it. Like she's got this vision for herself. I know this, by the way, because I asked, but she's got this vision for herself being like in her 80s and looking really stylish and still working. Like that's her thing. So I came across the cutest little video. So I just hit the forward button and typed her name in and just wrote thought of you. And what did she do? I don't know if anybody's in the chat. I'm giving you some space to think, put the answer in your head. Of course, she wrote back, thank you. And again, it's these little teeny tiny things all day long that are nurturing the relationship and building this funnel. I want to pause there for a second because this is very different from a really sales focused conversation. Are there any specific questions or things that you would just love for me to say again? I'm just doing a check on my time. I think this is something I do this with my team. My sales team at MXID, which is my company, we have our direct sales funnels and we have our relationship sales funnels, and they're both extremely important to us. Both things fuel our business. The more people we're connected to, like this is a perfect example. How many of you got to meet me, learned about my company? Maybe you're going to follow me online. You may or may not need anything I have in the future, but if I'm helping you in some way today, the likelihood of you remembering me, feeling a personal connection to me, all those things escalate. And it's my job to get as big as I can. And I want to just go back because what's the reason sometimes people don't want to get bigger, right? Is they don't feel like they're already meeting with success. But remember, when you get to set your own measure of success, you're always performing exactly where you're supposed to be. We have a term for it. We call it comparisonitis. When you compare yourself to others, 9 times out of 10, you're going to feel poorly. But when you compare yourself to yourself, right, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be able to find a lot of good things going on that you can celebrate. And the energy of success, rub your hands together with me because I'm going to do a little activity at the end if I have time, but part of what helps us to help people perform better is we get them in the energy of success. You're either winning or losing, and that's in your mind. And if you are a new agent who has no business and you haven't even gotten your first lead yet, right? And you compare yourself to an agent that's been around for 20 years and has a massive, right? You're absolutely going to be unsuccessful. But when you compare yourself to yourself, right, and you take action to achieve the things you want to achieve, all of a sudden you've got energy for success. So get in the habit of doing this. Whenever you put yourself in a position where you're comparing your success to somebody else's, it's the most detrimental thing you can do. And it's the thing that blocks people all the time from being more visible. I can't be visible, Susan. I'm not successful. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And this always brings me back, this energy of success. Just really quick. Great question. Okay, so if you're still working 9 to 5 or developing the real estate business, how can we manage this? So this right here can be done in 15 minutes a day. 15 minutes a day. If you commute by train, I would do it while I was commuting. If you have a lunch break, you could do it at your lunch break. If you want to spend a little bit of time at night, spend a little bit of time at night. I'm not advocating you spend more time on social media. I'm telling you that while you're on social media for yourself anyway, how can you use that time? Like when I'm scrolling through my feeds, I'm literally thinking about people in my community, people in my network, people who work for me, my clients, my past clients, my friends. How can I share things with them that are important and valuable to them? That's how I spend my social media time. And quite frankly, I've built a client profile of people like me that I like working with. Here's another thing. You don't have to be for everybody, and you don't have to work with everybody. This is one of the things I love about real estate. So again, the amount of time when you do this, how often you have to do this, the frequency is totally up to you to decide. I can tell you in the beginning, when I first started with a lot of these strategies, I literally was like in the energy of, if it's scheduled, it's done. Not a bad thing, especially if you need to build the muscle memory, right? Half the battle with this is doing it consistently and long enough to get a result. Most people quit long before they ever see any results to this. The actions that you take today, this is a really good thing to keep in mind. The actions that you take today show up 3 to 6 months from now. So if you decide today after this that you're going to go ahead and I'm going to go on social media and I'm going to start making connections, and you do it every day this week, and you get to the end of this week and you're like, well, that didn't work, right? I don't know what that did for me, right? That the foundation that you're laying comes to fruition 3 to 6 months from now. So if you quit, right, before it has the chance to take hold, or if you're in that energy of, see, this didn't work, right? The energy of success is more is coming, right? More is coming. This will work. So, and again, if you're a part-time agent, your ability to be a top producer is very limited. So if you're measuring yourself against that, right, you're already putting yourself kind of at a disadvantage to actually being successful. So give yourself permission to say, I have X number of hours in a day, hours in a week, or maybe you work your real estate more on the weekend and you're doing this social media time on the weekend. So there's a lots of ways that you can make that happen. I hope that helps for you. I think most people are on social media anyway. You might as well use that time to your advantage. How does it work for me? How does it work for others? But great question. I'm glad you brought that up, because sometimes that's the hardest thing is, habits get formed over time. And so you have to, you're very welcome. You have to give something grace and space to actually become something valuable. And here's what you might find, like, that didn't work for me, right? I always feel like I'm just walking through doors. I'm constantly walking through doors, because what I'm sharing with you might not work perfectly for you, but you might take away this one little thing that inspired me to try this. And I would have never thought to do that before. That's what I love about webinars, right? Webinars are not about implementing a strategy successfully. There's not enough time, and implementation happens over time, but it should inspire you to try new things, to take different actions. Sometimes it redirects your energy, right? That's why I'm spending some time, like some good time talking about that. I think that's almost the most valuable thing I can give you. If you've ever thought, right, am I an undercover agent? I loved when I first heard that term, undercover agent. I was like, oh, I am so that. I'm like, I am so that. I actually almost never tell people who I am or what I do. I'm like, why don't I do that? Why don't I do that? Right? That is the simplest, easiest way. My neighbor behind me bought a $60,000, I'm sorry, he bought a $200,000 house down the block, the piece of property behind it, and sold his house, and our backyards touch. And shame on me, he didn't know I was a real estate agent. Didn't know. Didn't know. I'm not saying you would have chosen me, right? But I never even gave myself a shot. How sad, right? How many times are we doing that? How many opportunities are we missing out on because we're not taking that one little extra step? So this is a relationship funnel. So when you're doing a strategy like this, we got about 15 minutes here. I want to show you the second one. When you're doing the 75-25, remember, this is an engagement strategy. I absolutely believe you should share your houses. You should share testimonials. You should share, whatever successes that you're having. I absolutely believe you should do those. That's a direct sale. Remember, different strategies. So don't confuse. One is not better than the other. They just have a different goal. Like I told you, in my company, we have a relationship goal and we have sales goals. We have both because they're both really important. 75-25 on social is about developing meaningful connections. And the secret to success here is not about even talking about real estate. I wish I could like hook up my phone and show you some things, but if you sort of look at people who have these massive followings, sometimes you're almost like, what do they even do for a living? Right? And the point is they have an optimized profile. And they go and they look at that profile and they're like, oh yeah, I totally buy that from somebody. It's not really a conscious thing. So social media, right, is social. It's not just about selling. Yeah, I mean, I follow some people. I'm like, what do you do for a living? Sometimes you make money. The YouTube, like I have a client who she's a doctor and she does exercise videos for aging population, for people in chronic pain. And she has a really great product that she sells on the back end because the product helps to relieve chronic pain. She's grown her YouTube channel to 380,000 subscribers with these videos. And she makes good money from YouTube because of that. But, right, she's not utilizing those 380,000 subscribers to their fullest and best ability. That's what we want, that's what we want to do. Like, let's get them into our ecosystem. And then the next step is, what do we do with that? And this might be really helpful. Again, this really helped me with, I realized that, I didn't want to be painted with a sales brush. If you ever had a negative experience with a sales representative anywhere, like ever, you have a negative connotation of sales in general. And so it's extremely hard to convince yourself that sales is good, right? When you personally associate sales with being very negative. So I love connections because it takes a lot of that away. Now, to get really good at sales, you're going to have to let that go completely. That's a conversation for another day. And your best sales reps out there, if you ask them, if you're not a top performer and you want to be, I want you to go to the top agent in your office today. And I want you to ask one question: on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love sales? And if they're not saying an 8, 9, or 10 on sales, right, I'll eat my hat. If you ask yourself, how much do you love the sales side of real estate, and you're not performing at the level you want to perform, I guarantee you it's a 7 or under. It's energetics, right? We're always going to block ourselves from being as fully visible and transparent as we can be if we're not internally on board with it. So do that as a takeaway. And if you do that, do me a favor, come to my social media channel. Tell me, was I right? Say Susan, you were right. I love to hear I'm right. And if I'm wrong, I love to hear that too. So either way, go to one of my social media channels and send me a message. Tell me if you did that or not. And if we have anybody in here who is in that top performer category in your office, how do you feel about sales on a scale of 1 to 10? Give us a number, 1 to 10. Let's see if my theory holds true, right? So for the rest of us that have, our struggles with learning to become the best sales professional we can be, I want to give you this strategy before we wrap up for today. and honestly, I have to just move something because I've changed this. I didn't know, you tell me whether or not you like the title, C's lead to A's. I used to do, you have to go through A to get to B, but I didn't like that. So you can tell me if this works better. C's lead to A's. So C's to me are connections. And I liked it because this is all about meaningful connections. So I like the synergy of that. They lead to the A's, which is what you really want, right? You want buyers and sellers. You want buyers, sellers, renters, right? That's what we want. That's where we make our money. But the path of least resistance is through recommendations and referrals. Let me just explain what I mean by that. And this is just, I'm sure you can appreciate this, right? How hard is it when you meet a lead off the internet and they don't know you at all? There's that whole know, like, and trust that needs to be established. And that is a lengthy process, sometimes can take years, right? Or could be the reason you don't get a listing versus somebody else, right? They built a rapport, they had a connection. And this is why Zillow profiles are so important. Like, your proof of success is really important because people need to know that you're good at what you do. Referrals and recommendations are how you remove all those barriers. So when someone says to you, when you meet someone and they say, oh yes, my brother-in-law is thinking about selling his house. And they go, oh, by the way, this is an agent I know. She's awesome. She takes really good care of people, you know, whatever story they want to tell about you. She's been in the business XYZ. I'm gonna, make a connection for you because she can definitely help you out. You are walking through the door at level 3, right? You're not in the basement. You're not even in the lobby. Like, you're already hanging out having coffee because you've been introduced and you've been stamped, sealed, and approval. Recommendations and referrals do that for you. So I don't want anyone walking out of this session going, I never need to sell on social media again. Recommendations and referrals are like jet fuel. They're jet fuel for sales, because it takes like all of that, stranger on the internet. I don't know who this person is, right? It removes all of that. So why is it so important to make these connections? Because you really want them referring you to your family and to your friends. And so when I think about C's that lead to A's, it's really about solving problems for our ideal clients. Now, this is going to be very surface, so I apologize, but the packet that I'm sending to you actually gives you the steps for how to do this. So if you're into this philosophy, definitely pay attention to that package because it's the same thing, right? If you want to attract a C, right? That means that you want to remove a problem for someone in your network, right? And I'll give you a perfect example. I'm working with a client right now who happens to be an interior decorator. And I'm telling you this because I think this is really interesting. So she happens to be an interior decorator, but what she found out is that her clients, when they buy a house, just from her frequent conversations with them, there are lots of things new home buyers don't think to do that she always tells them to do. Clean out the trap. She was like telling me a couple of them, like, I made this mistake as a first-time home buyer. I never had a sprinkler system. And so I didn't know you actually had to turn that off at the end of the season. So I came out one morning and my entire lawn, right, was covered in frost. I didn't know I had to turn off the sprinkler, right? Simple, silly little things. So what she's in the process of doing right now is taking her research about her clients who are, in the process of doing their house. And she is going to look to partner with some real estate agents and co-brand this like little informational packet. Now, how smart is that? Because my client, who's the interior designer, knows that real estate agents are constantly working with buyers and sellers and people that have just closed on a house. And nobody needs a decorator services more than someone who's just closed on a house. And the better she creates these relationships with brokers and agents like you, right? The more likely you are to recommend her if one of your clients says, oh, Susan, I hate the wallpaper in here and I totally need some help redecorating. Do you know anyone? Raise your hand if your clients ever ask you, do you know anyone? Whatever they're asking you for, those are your best C's. So my goal today is just to teach you the strategy and to help you figure out who your best C's are, right? And how I'm going to tell you to do that is to go back to, is it first time home buyers? Is it downsizers? Is it, renters? And ask them a couple of like, what are the things you didn't know, right? What are the things you needed? What are the services they asked you for? And then I would go out and I would make friends with every person in that world. So if you don't have a good mortgage broker that you're connected to that knows you and you know them and you support each other, right? You're missing out. Interior designer, another great one. Let's see, like we have a couple of minutes here. We're going to wrap up here. What other C's are really good in the real estate industry? Can you think of any other C's? Remember, connections that could lead you to people that you want to work with, your A's. Landscapers, I love it. 2 votes for landscapers, so that's popular. The landscaper always knows, right? Honestly, mailmen, mailwomen, yep, contractors, business owners, you get it, right? Oh, you're so good. These are your best connection sources. One of the things I encourage you to do is just sit down and make a list of the last 5 people that have referred you in some way, shape, or form. Who were they? Divorce attorneys. Excellent. Bingo. I'm in a networking group, an in-person networking group. We spend a lot of time. We bring in one individual. We have one real estate person in our networking group. And we spend a lot of time helping each other to figure out who are your best connection sources. Because remember, connections are the path of least resistance. I love it. Financial advisors. That's a really good one. Insurance. That's a really good one. They're always dealing with people and their money and their circumstances. Really, really good. Okay, we have 2 minutes. I want to give you something really good to send you off with. And I want to just do a quick recap. Are there any questions that anybody wants to just make sure they get answered before we wrap up today? I'm going to, actually, I can't do it from here. Okay, I thought I would be able to just pop this thing right in here, but I can't. I'm going to send it to LIBOR and they will be able to send this out for you. So if you want the handout that goes a little bit more into detail, look for it on the replay. It'll be there on the replay. So let's just go. So, right. So remember, just to go back, it's about opening doors. It's not about sales, right? And this should not be the only strategy in your business, but it should be a predominant one. Because quite frankly, there's an old saying, your network is your net worth, right? There's a reason, right? So here's how you can develop more connections online. And this is how you can really broaden who knows you and who knows what you do, right? 70-25. I think this is my favorite strategy right now, especially for real estate agents, especially in this market, right? Who are your C's and how can you start to build really good partnerships that are mutually beneficial to both of you? Very powerful. I love this relationship funnel. I think this is a good thing. We put this, this is on my desk. Like if you could see, this is on my desk. So it's always in my head. And I want to leave you with this because sometimes you're like, I don't know, Susan, really? I don't know. I want to remind you something. It is very common before you start something new, or if you're going to advance, right? Many of you are already doing this, but maybe, yeah, Rocco, right? I have yes, I hear you. Juggling between the accounts, to me, they're all business, period. They're all business. And I talk about different things in different places, but any one of my social media channels says exactly what I do, how I help people, and how you can get in touch with me. because I never know where I say something, if it's going to be the thing you needed and you're going to come looking for me. I want to be available to you. If I say something and you need me, I want to be available to you. Right. So just think about that. That's one of the first things I would do. I would play with all your social media profiles and make sure they all who you are, what you do. And if you specialize in a certain part of real estate, go all in on it. And I'm going to leave you with this final thought, because we're right here on the dot at 1 o'clock. Remember, it's only crazy until it works, and then you're a genius. I can't take credit for saying this. I'm just noticing my name is here. I did not coin this. It's been said a million times over, but I live by it, because here's what would happen for me. I would think about doing something and I would go, well, that's just crazy. And it would shut me down. That would be the end of it. I would not do it. But the second I started to lean into, when I do crazy things, it actually expands me, and I always grow and I always win. So I wanted to make myself comfortable with it. So if you've got a crazy idea for something you want to try, remember, it's only crazy until it works, and then you're a genius. And that is this is what you're going to get. Actually, no, you're going to get something similar to this. And then I'll just leave this up here. If you want to find me, tell me about your success metric. Give me some feedback. Tell me what you liked about this. I'm constantly changing this, tweaking this. I want to make this really valuable for people. And I want to wish you a great day. I'm going to stop sharing. And Marianne, I'm going to turn it over to you to wrap us up.
I'm muted. Okay, no longer. Thank you so much. You have such great comments on the side here, Susan, and we had a great turnout, lots of good information. Thank you for the giveaway, and Ethan will put that up on the site.
Yep.
And we hope to have you back for a follow-up.
I love it. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you for letting me be part of your real estate journey. Have an amazing day.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.